Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And there's another unfortunate story straight out of St. Louis, Missouri, in the Midwest, where I do most of my videos. There has been another death at the St. Louis City Justice Center. So a woman dies in custody over the weekend of the St. Louis City Jail, marking the 22nd death since 2020. And this is all under the leadership of our previous mayors and our current mayor. So back at the end of 2020, we had Lyda Krewson, who was the mayor, leaving office. 2021 through 2025, we had Mayor Tashara Jones, where the bulk of many of these deaths that took place in the city jail happened under her tutelage. And now we have Kara Spencer. And this chaos and disruption is continuing to go on. Now, I'm not blaming all three of the mayors for what is taking place in the city, the St. Louis City Justice Center. However, the mayor is the governance of the city. So anything that's happening in any of these departments or facilities within the city, the mayor of the city has to take a look at it and has to do some kind of oversight and take responsibility for what's going on. Sounds like the St. Louis Justice Center. Now, one great thing about Tashara Jones doing her tutelage, she did close down the St. Louis City Workhouse, and there were decades of melee and devastation and homicides and death and assaults that took place in the St. Louis City Workhouse. And I have to applaud ex-mayor Tashara Jones for getting rid of the workhouse. But now the workhouse is gone, and now I guess what has replaced the workhouse with devastation, fear, assaults, deaths is the St. Louis City Justice Center. And there's been quite a bit going on. There's been past riots. There have been assaults against correctional officers. And there's been multiple fights. There are jail cells that don't lock. There's a huge safety issue. They are not fully staffed. They don't have a full staff medical staff unit to help people with these health issues, and there are some real issues going on. There have been multiple jail commissioners in the St. Louis City Justice Center here recently, and of course, there's been a huge issue in the sheriff's department, going from Vernon Betts to Alfred Montgomery, who has been removed. And there is a lot of chaos and disruption going on in the city under the watchful eye of the mayor. And something needs to be done about it. As I say, the mayor is the governance of the city. And if the mayor's department can't handle what's going on, of course, the Governor Kehoe will come in, and of course, the Attorney General will come in. So we have to get this thing under control, but we need to raise awareness. It could be your loved one. It could be somebody going to jail. That does not mean that they have to die in jail. We also have our St. Louis public school system, which is in just as much chaos as our St. Louis City justice system. Multiple superintendents that have been here in the last couple of years and have left under negative, auspicious circumstances. Poor scores, ninth graders in our St. Louis public school system that are reading on a 4th and 5th grade level. The graduation rate is terrible. ACT scores are running in the teens. Kids are scoring 15, 16, 13 on average on ACT scores. And what does that mean? These kids are not going to be graduating from high school to go to college. They're going to be graduating from high school to find minimum wage jobs and possibly end up in the legal system or the justice system. Do you see the parallels? We're talking about poor, broken public schools, and we're talking about fatherless homes, and we're talking about inept administrators and teachers in many of these schools, and you're finding the same thing that's taking place in our city jail. So let's get into what happened with this recent death in the city jail. So, woman dies in custody of St. Louis City Jail over the weekend, marking the 22nd death since 2020. The family of Demetria McDowell, who died Saturday while in custody of the St. Louis City Justice Center, her family stood outside the jail Sunday morning in below freezing temperatures, calling for justice and greater transparency from city officials. So what all happened? Officials from the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department said McDowell, who was 32, was alone in her cell when she was found unresponsive just before 4:45 Saturday p.m. They said medical staff members tried performing life-saving measures but were unsuccessful. McDowell was taken to a local hospital where she was pronounced dead just after 6 p.m. Police said their Force Investigation Unit is probing the case, which is standard protocol for in-custody deaths. McDowell's death marks at least the 22nd death since 2020. Her aunt, Del Sola Jones, 45, said Sunday through tears that McDowell called her Saturday afternoon. So this is how the storyline goes. Complaining of chest pains. Jones also recalled a November conversation with McDowell when McDowell said she wasn't feeling well. She said her niece suffered from severe mental health issues, which she believes caused jail officials to disregard her cries for help. Now, you hear me talk about it all the time. There are certain pillars that need to be addressed, that are tearing down the moral and ethical fabric of America. Undiagnosed and untreated mental illness, joblessness, hopelessness, the opioid crisis, fatherless homes, inept inner city public schools, etc. And this story has everything encapsulated around mental health issues and having the appropriate measures to deal with them. She said, "TT, I'm sick as a dog and these people are not helping me," Jones said of the November conversation with McDowell. "I went to go see her and I seen how much weight she lost. She wasn't bathing. She kept telling me the people won't give her any soap. I tried to explain to her, they're not going to get you no soap because you get money on your books." Jones said McDowell didn't understand that meant she'd have to purchase the soap for herself. She said McDowell suffered from emphysema and needed antibacterial soap, which the jail doesn't freely hand out after providing an initial bar to detainees in a hygiene kit during intake. So here are some of the mental health concerns. McDowell had been in custody at the city jail since 2024, charged with 6 felonies, including armed criminal action, resisting and interfering with an arrest for a felony, and domestic assault in the second degree. A grand jury indictment was filed in August 2024. Police alleged McDowell stabbed her child's father in June 2024 and stalked him at his job that month before attempting to run from officers. She had a counsel status hearing scheduled for February the 13th, court records show. McDowell's family said her mental health had been declining for several years. Jones said she's been fighting to get McDowell mental health treatment for a while. "I've been telling them she needs to be in a hospital. I contacted the mental health people and everything. They got logs of me contacting them, going down there to the public defender's office and trying to talk to them. When they hear her name, they are like, 'Oh, Demetria McDowell, yeah, I know her.'" Jones added, "It's like they don't even care. I'm telling them like she's mentally ill, but y'all not listening to her. That's wrong. She's still a human and she's in you all's custody." So in a statement, officials from the St. Louis Corrections Division said they recognized the profound seriousness of any in-custody death and offered their sympathies to the family. "The safety, care, and well-being of those in our custody remain a fundamental priority," the statement reads. "The division is conducting a comprehensive review and is fully cooperating with the ongoing investigation." St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer also expressed condolences to McDowell's family and friends. We share the community's concern over the lives lost in the city's care at the City Justice Center, and we support a detailed investigation into Demetria's death. And so it goes on to say that McDowell's cousin, Sharice Weems, 46, said McDowell leaves behind 6 children, all 14 and younger, including 2 sets of twins. Weems, who is currently the guardian of McDowell's twin boys, said McDowell cared about her kids, of course. She loved her babies, and that's all she talked about. She could tell that somewhere down the line she slipped and she lost her mind. She was on medication. McDowell's family said they don't believe she was given the correct medication, if any at all. They said prior to being detained at the jail, she didn't have any serious health conditions aside from mild asthma. Listen to that statement. But the family remembers other aspects of her life. Purple was her favorite color, and she loved to laugh and enjoy writing things down. Weems called on the jail to change its policy and protocols regarding how detainees suffering from mental health conditions are handled. They keep blaming everything on being short-staffed. Okay, we don't have enough people here, or we don't have enough people there, Weems said. I feel so bad, like I am hurt behind all of this if there's no change. We're going to have to keep saying the same thing over and over again, and people are going to keep dying. Officials from the St. Louis Corrections Division and Public Safety Department did not immediately respond to the request for this conversation. And here's a history of jail deaths. 3 people died in custody of the troubled jail last year. Samuel Hayes Jr., 31. In July, he died after he was placed in a restraint chair. 54-year-old James Earl Johnson died in November after suffering a medical emergency. And Derek Dean, 48, died last month. The lawsuit has been filed against correction staff, nurses, and the city, and a corrections-focused healthcare provider. The suit also claims that Hayes was left convulsing for about 20 minutes and that the nurses and other officers failed to follow city policies regarding the use of restraint chairs by neglecting to regularly check on him. The cause of death for Hayes is pending an investigation and a lawsuit is going on. And at least 11 of the 22 detainee deaths that have occurred since 2020 were due to some sort of medical emergency or health condition, according to public safety, policy, and medical examiner records.